Okie dokie. So the quiz is going to start out with some graphing type stuff. So our first problem, we've got an equation and we're going to graph it. So we remember that the last number is the b. So this is my y-intercept. This is the y-intercept, and this is what we do first. I'm going to go along the y-axis, and I'm going to plot a point at 1, or sorry, at -1. Positive numbers go up, and negative numbers go down, so -1 is right here. I go plot a point. From here, I'm going to apply the slope. So the slope is 1/4. That's what I'm going to do second. And 1/4 tells me go up, and I always go right. So from my point, I'm going to go up 1, and then I'm going to go right 4, and I'm going to put a point. I don't have any more graph to continue this pattern to the right, but I can continue the pattern to the left by doing the opposite. So I'll go down 1 and then left 4 to get another point. I'm going to connect the dots, and I'm going to put arrows on my graph. The next question, it says write an equation and I'm given a graph. So I need these two things. I'm going to write an equation. My equation is going to be in the form of y equals mx plus or minus b. Mx plus b. And so the two things that I'm looking for to be able to write my equation, I need to find the slope and I need to find the y-intercept. And so my y-intercept, I kind of start there. My y-intercept, it's the first thing I do when I graph, so it's the first thing I look for when I'm writing an equation. It's where I cross the y-axis, so I look along the y-axis, and I cross at 2. So I have this value and it's a 2. And then I'm going to see, it looks kind of nice because there's actually another coordinate on my graph up here. So I'm going to figure out how I get from here to here. It looks like that I go up and then I go right, well, always right. So I go up 3 and then over 4. Do y'all agree? Okay. So my equation, when I create my equation, I'm going to write it in that form, not pink. Y equals 3/4 x plus 2. And keep in mind, your quiz is multiple choice. So if I were you, I would go through, and if you find and you're very certain that the 2 is the y-intercept, mark the ones off that don't have 2 as y-intercept, and you just eliminated some of your answer choices. Moving on. So it says, given the following graph, state the following properties. The first question, does this graph represent a function? And we're going to circle either yes or no. So you tell me, does this represent a function? Yes, it passes the vertical line test. And so remember, this is okay. This is not okay. So this is okay. This is not okay. So you can't like double over on yourself. So this is yes, it's a function. And then it says identify the domain. So it gives you some practice. It tells you to write one of them as an interval and one of them as an inequality. So the domain is left and right. So domain is left and right, and range will be up and down. Also, you get partial credit on your quizzes by showing me work. And so these are ways that you show me work, that you're telling me that domain is left and right. You're telling me that range is up and down. On this question, you're telling me these types of things, like you're thinking through the process, you're marking up your graph, things like that. That tells me that you're thinking through the problem and I can give you partial credit. So domain is left and right. So for this graph, how far left does my graph go? Does it stop right here at -3? No. When does it stop? It doesn't. It goes from negative infinity. And then when does it stop over here? Does it stop at 5-ish? No. It goes all the way to positive infinity. And what symbol, what grouping symbol always goes around infinities? Parentheses. You can never reach infinity. It's always parentheses. The range needs to be an inequality. Okay, so I'm going to get a y in the middle and I'm going to set it up with less than symbols. That's how they always start. So I need to figure out how far down my graph goes. So when does my graph stop going down? -4. So the lowest it goes is -4. Smaller numbers always go on the left. And then how high does my graph go? It goes all the way to infinity. All right, do y'all remember what I said about anytime one half of your graph has an infinity, what can you do with that part? Do what? Or what can we do with the infinity part? Well, we can drop off that part. So we can rewrite this so we've got -4 is less than y. But I've also said that we really like to have the variable on the left. So you might see it like that. You might also see it flipped so that the variable is on the left. You might see it like that. Either one of these ways is more likely how you're going to see it on a quiz or a test. So anytime you have infinity on one half of your interval, you can drop the infinity part. What's another way to write this from negative infinity to infinity? What's that also represent? All real numbers. So it is possible you might see it as the all real numbers symbol. So you might see it like this, and you might see it like this. Again, if you're showing me partial credit, you built it with the infinity and then you dropped it. All right, we've got some solving of an equation and a solving of an inequality. So solving an equation, first thing I want to do is get rid of divide by 4. What's the opposite of divide? Multiply. So let's get rid of divide by 4. Let's bring it to the other side and let's multiply by 4. So on the left, we are left with x plus 3. On the right, we have 7 times 4. What is 7 times 4? Huh? 28. On your quiz, please don't feel like you have to do mental math. Use a calculator. From here, I want x by itself. I've got one last step to get x by itself. Yep, I need to get rid of the plus 3. The inverse of adding is subtracting, so I'm going to subtract 3. I'm left with x on the left, and then on the right, what is 28 minus 3? 25. How could I check my answer if I wanted to? Plug it in. I could plug it in. If I plugged it in, I would have 25 plus 3 is 28. 28 divided by 4 is 7. That means that on your quiz that's multiple choice, you can, if you struggle with solving, a test-taking strategy is to take the answer choices and plug them into the equation. If you write them out, that shows me that you did work. You can get partial credit even if you pick the wrong answer. Next question. It is an inequality, but we solve it just like an equation. The only thing we have to keep in mind is two things. We want to try and put the variable on the left. And if we multiply or divide by a negative, we have to flip the sign. So those are two things we have to keep in mind. Other than that, it solves just like an equation. So what should I do first? This is a two-step equation. Your quiz will be just like this, a two-step equation. Yep, I need to get rid of this plus or minus. On the left, it's positive, so when I bring it over, it needs to be negative. On the left, I am left with 4x. Make sure you bring down the sign. 32 minus 12, what do I get? 20. Use a calculator so you can check to make sure you did good work. And then last, I need to get rid of multiply by 4. How do I do that? Divide both sides by 4. On the left, I am left with x is less than or equal to, what's 20 divided by 4? 5. Beautiful. We are almost done. We just have one last problem. So we know, and what we did in our notes is we wrote out our problem and we made sure to add zeros. We added 3 zeros when it was in thousands. Well, this problem actually has it to where it finds the equation already for you. Hello. We have the equation already for us. So we're going to go ahead and use what's given. And then in the end, we have to remember that anytime it's in thousands, we have to move the decimal 3 places because there's 3 zeros. So the question gives us the correlation equation. It gives us the R value. So we know it's a pretty strong correlation. It says use the equation to predict the number of snails in 2025. Okay, 2025, and we start our table in 2012. So we need to find the difference in 2025 and 2012. So we're going to subtract 2012. Somebody please do that and tell me what we get. How many? 13. All right. So 13, and that is an X value. X is equal to 13. X also represents my years. This is my X, this is my Y. So I'm going to use this equation, and there's a little gap in your quiz as well right here where you can write it out. So I'm going to write out my equation, and I'm going to plug in X is equal to 13. So Y equals 73.21, and then I'm going to plug in, this is where I'm plugging in 13. All right, I'm going to type that into my calculator or type it into Desmos. I don't really care which one that you do. It's easier for me to show you on Desmos, so I'm going to show it right here. 73.21. You can even use parentheses to type in 13 minus 67.14. All right. So it looks like that I got 884. Sorry, my pen died. Sorry, my pen is not working. All right, 884.59. All right, so what we're going to do is move the decimal 3 places. 1, 2, 3. If I move it to right here, I'm missing a 0, so I add a 0. So I get 884,590. And I will tell you that on your quiz, if you get your numbers a little bit jumbled or anything, if you were to type this in and you add all the zeros, you're going to get slightly different answer, but I can tell you it's going to start out the same. So if like you're a couple numbers off here, The answer choices are not so close that like you're gonna mess up. There's only one answer choice that starts out the same as the answer that you get. So pick the one that's the closest to the answer you get if you type this all in yourself and get your own regression by adding the 3 zeros. You'll be slightly off, or you can just do it like this and move the decimal 3 spots. It's another way you can do it. All right, that is it.